Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're looking at M Manectric with the Trevenant tech that we originally saw in Canadian Nationals, where the list was really wacky. It played a Trevenant and a Giratina. It had like 2-2-2-6 line of energy. Yeah, I'm not going for that list because it's just too crazy for my liking. I've tried to strip it down, make it a bit more basic for the channel, just because I feel like just having a more consistent build in general is the best way to approach the card game. A few notes before we get started. I'm working on a few videos right now, working on a big rotation video, also a big sort of post-US Nationals discussion, which will hopefully lead into some pre-Worlds talk as well, which is another video that I'm starting to get prepared. And from this deck onwards, like this is the last deck we're doing of Fates Collide on. The rest of the decks, they're going to be Steam Siege. So we're really looking towards Worlds. I'm of course attending Worlds, Jack is not, but he's going to help me out in testing, and he just loves playing new decks and new concepts anyway. So we're going to get on the Steam Siege hype very soon here. This is going to be the last Fates Collide video, so back to the crummy little proxies, so I hope you don't mind that. We'll get off PTCGO for a little bit, but yeah, on to today's video. We do have M Manectric Trevenant. It didn't do so well at US Nationals, although it did do very, very well at Canadian Nationals. Even though this isn't the exact list, like I say, I just wanted to get the raw concept out here and discuss my decisions going forwards. So we will jump into it. We have M Manectric EX, 170 HP. We know this is a really good attacker. It's sometimes been used on its own with just things like bats. That's a little old-fashioned for us right now, but the attacks are still pretty relevant. Overrun for a single colourless energy does 20, and also a 20 snipe to the bench, which is kind of handy. And we also have Assault Laser, which does, for a lightning colourless, 60 base with an addition of 60 more damage if our opponent's active Pokemon has a tool attached. So that's pretty strong. Assault Laser's just a really good option, fairly cheap and efficient attack. Speaking of cheap, efficient attacks, we do have the Mega, of course, 210 HP. Free Retreat is amazing, and Turbo Bolt is the attack. For the same cost as Assault Laser, we do 110, and we get to attach 2 basic energy cards from the discard pile to one of our benched Pokemon. So this is really fantastic for setting up multiple Manectric, also setting up our other bench dudes, the Trevenant and the Jolteon, most specifically, also sometimes the Mew as well. So the idea of the deck is just to have inherently high HP and use this efficient Turbo Bot attack to continue getting attacks off each turn, having a constant flow of Pokemon to throw at your opponent if they are taking down your big guys. We do have the Free Retreat to get a nice bit of flexibility. We do have that Rough Seas as well as a 4 of. Just like the Aquabox deck, we're really taking advantage of this amazing Stadium card, where we're getting the heals off, making it really awkward for our opponent to deal with our Pokemon. So there we go. That is the 3-3 line, the main attacker. Everything else is sort of supplementary. We do have 2 Jolteon EX. This is, of course, a huge thorn in the paw for a few decks. Think about the Darkrai Garbodor style decks that use pretty much all basic Pokemon. Also, of course, Night March, they're going to hate going through Jolteon EX, although some people are playing the Maxi Gallade builds, which is kind of worrying for this deck. I'll get onto that in a moment, but Jolteon's just a really strong attacker. Again, it has Free Retreat as well. This is a really big factor because we are playing Max Elixir in this deck as a 4 of. It's not something we're used to seeing in the Manectric builds, but with Max Elixir, it's great to have 2 Jolteon as nice free retreaters, and we also have the Mew as well. So we have a lot of good early game, sort of good lead Pokemon, so we can get Max Elixirs onto things like Manectric onto the bench, where it's a little bit safer, and of course that's where Max Elixir works. So pretty important just having the free retreat alone. Again, it's a lightning type, so we benefit from the Rough Seas when need be. It's 2 attacks, the 30 damage is okay, I guess, at times, but it's all about Flash Ray. For a lightning double colorless, bear in mind we're not playing any DCE, we're completely focused on Max Elixir in this deck, or Turbo Bolt as well, I guess. So we have the 70 base damage, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. Very strong attack. Obviously people can get around it with the likes of Rope and Lysandre. So bear that in mind. We do have like the AZ and the Super Rod in here, so there will, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, be those situations where you do have lone Jolteon and you can just win games. I don't think it's super consistent, but it's still an option. Like, I think because of the likes of Aquabox, which don't like Jolteon, and Darkrai Giratina, that has pretty much no option sometimes for the Jolteon other than escape ropes. You can just sort of slow roll with the Jolteon EX, but like with Night March, you can still just lose. You need to get that lone Jolteon to win the game. In the other situations, you can just allow your opponent to get these slow Lysandres here and there, and eventually just keep smacking them for that 70 each turn. It's kind of slow, not the best amount of damage, but against the right sort of things, you can still Lysandre up Shaymins, of course, for hitting for weakness for knockouts. It gets a great favourable prize trade, so the free retreat is a big factor, but obviously Flash Ray's great for a number of decks right now. We do have the one Trevenant EX. This was the biggest innovation from the Canada list that I really did like. I'm surprised no one really figured it out before, to be honest, because regular Manectric builds would struggle otherwise with Greninja when it becomes to the late game, and also the Aquabox deck is becoming more and more popular. So let's just throw in a grass type. Why not? We can get Manectric to get a couple of Turbo Bolts off, set this guy up. Against the Aquabox deck, you have enough time to set up Mega Manectric quite often, and obviously against Greninja, you have a lot of time to do that as well. So we're quite happy in the two matchups where we need Trevenant to basically slowly attach onto him so that we can do his second attack, Wood Blast, which does 50 plus 20 more for each grass energy attached to this Pokemon. We know this is a great attack. We've seen it on a few things. The Raikou and, of course, Keldeo EX have had similar attacks to this with different energy costs. So really, really strong attack. It gives us a lot better matchup in those two departments, which is great. There's, of course, Dark Forest as well, which does, for just a grass energy, 20, and the defending Pokemon can't retreat. In niche situations, this could be okay. If things are using Float Stones, you can just Lysandre them up and try and use Dark Forest, stall for a turn. Maybe against something like a Trev, you could do that as well. So it's an option for you. It's not the biggest reason we play it, the card. It's all about the Wood Blast, really. But yeah, it's a nice type coverage type option for the deck, and it's pretty cool. From there, we do just have the Hoopa. Scoundrel Ring still super huge for the Mega decks, quite simply. We need to be as consistent as possible. Hoopa lets us do that. Same reason for the two Shaymin EX, it's all about consistency. I feel like 2 is the correct number. We fill up our bench with other things quite often. I could quite easily see 3 as well. At the moment, I'm happy with 2. And finally, the only non-EX we're playing is Mew. And really, we have the Mew because we may as well play one non-EX to try and force these 7 prize games, force Lysandres, force Escape Rope, whatever else, to make it more awkward for our opponent to just win the game by killing or knocking out 3 EX Pokemon. We shove a non-EX in the active position to force them to have these answers. So the reason we've gone for Mew is, 1, because it's a Psychic type, and one of the biggest issues for Mega Manectric is that it has no real answer for Gallade. So having a Psychic type means we can copy one of our attacks and try and hit Gallade for weakness. That's just a really nice option to deal with the Gallade as quickly as possible so that it's no longer an issue for us. We do, of course, have Encounter as well, which is helpful. And again, he's a free retreater. So just having this nice pivot of Mew, whenever we need to, we can send Mew into the active so we can try and get more Max Elixir value onto our other attackers. It's just really handy. So really worth the one-of as a non-EX Pokemon. Just in general, fantastic. But it does serve a couple of niche purposes in here, which is great. So onto the items now. We are playing the one Super Rod. Super Rod helps us recycle the important one-ofs, the Mew if we're up against Gallade stuff, the Trevenant if need be. Also recycling the Mega pieces. We are just playing the 3-3 count, of course, so do bear that in mind. Also, there's the issue of, against the things like Night March, if you have achieved lone Jolteon, that's step 1 of the strategy. Step 2 is that you also have to force your opponent to no longer have the out of Target Whistle. So we need to Super Rod our Pokemon that are in the discard pile back into the deck so that they can't Target Whistle Lysandre or Target Whistle Escape Rope for the game. So it's also in there for that reason, I guess, as well. We are playing one Escape Rope. Escape Rope is also helpful for ourselves. when we're up against other annoying type Pokemon that we can't get around. Think about stuff like Regice, it's awkward. Even though we do have Mew, Mew's attacks that can copy, it doesn't really hit nicely on Regice because we don't have the weakness that we would on something like Gallade. So it's difficult to hit that 120 on the Regice. So we need the sort of escape rope to get around it sometimes. Also just switching in general, the Trevenant is heavy, the Hoopa's heavy. Just having the extra out is handy because we only have this and AZ of course, so just good to have it in the deck. I guess to an extent there's stuff like Giratina if we need to get the Mega going. We know there are a lot of these important cards around at the moment. I'm thinking for Worlds, Escape Rope could easily be cut because you're probably going to be playing Ranger anyway to get around these annoying things. So something to bear in mind, but for now we're playing the Escape Rope. We are playing a 2 of Battle Compressor. Helps us get our many 1-of supporters into the discard pile and also gets some of these energy in as well if need be to start powering up via Turbo Bolt, which is pretty handy. We are still playing the 4 Max Elixir, and 4 Max Elixir is just amazing. It just sets up our guys a little bit quicker, trying to get that turn 1 aggression from some of these attackers. Of turn 1 Manectric can gives us nice prize trade against 170 HP EX Pokemon if we can do the initial 60 and then move into the Mega and do 110 the following turn. That's really handy. It's also going to help set up the Jolteon, the Trevenant. It's just like what we see with the Metal style deck, where they have that late game supplement of energy. It's pretty much a very similar concept that we've stolen, where the Metal deck has Bronzong in the late game, but nothing early game. Here we have Turbo Bolt late game, but nothing early game, so we just steal Max Elixir, try and give ourselves more aggression for more options. It does, of course, help accelerate the Jolteon EX as well to try and secure that situation a little bit quicker. Maybe there's the off chance that you run into attachment plus double Elixir. You can go Flash Ray on the first turn, which would be pretty cool. It's kind of niche, but hey, it's an option for you. We are playing the 4 Ultra Ball, just pretty natural at this point. It's in almost everything, unless you're the second place Nationals deck list that played 3 Sycamore, 3 Ultra Ball, 3 Trainer's Mail. Ugh, I cringed at that, but fair play. He had to fit in Puzzle of Time somehow, and that's where he found his cuts, but I'm sticking with 4 for now. We are playing for VS Seeker as well. Again, pretty natural. When we're playing Compressor, it's just a huge consistency card. We do have the AZ, like I was saying. It's going to help remove annoying things from our board, and it's our means of switching these chunky things if need be. We are still playing on Hex Maniac. I remember in my Nationals sort of discussion I was saying how important it was to have 2 ofs of Lysandre and Hex. Well, I've actually gone against my own advice, if that makes sense, because in actually building, it's quite cramped, this deck, because you need to have quite a high basic energy count to make the Max Elixirs worthwhile, and you need to have a high Max Elixir count as well. So I have actually trimmed down to just the 1 Hex. But it is still a really handy card to have in here for so many different decks right now, so I still really like it. We are playing the 2 Lysandre. I still think this is definitely worth having a 2 of, because the deck is so good at dealing with lower HP things like Shaymin EXs and such. We need to take these cheap prizes sometimes just to close out games and to just target things that we need to all the time. It just gives you great odds for winning games, because normally we're in 2-hit KO wars against other EXs, but if we just have more Lysandres available, we can deal with the easier stuff. Guess what? A little bit easier. There you go. We do have 2 N in here as well. N is pretty handy for the likes of Night March. It's one of our hardest matchups, Night March. Really, it's N and Prey quite often is our main strategy, but hoping that we can get enough energy on the field early and mid-game can try and make it a little bit awkward. We do have things like the high stadium count, the high enough HP sometimes to make it awkward when you combine it with N to sometimes make them miss beats, but really it is a very difficult matchup for you, even with the Jolteon EX. So try your best. N gives us a chance, and in general, a consistency boosting card against these other matchups. N is a disruptive factor. No surprise to see it in the deck. Still playing for Sycamore, just for consistency. Getting rid of energy so that we can get Turbo Volt value is helpful, and just getting high hand sizes. Skyla is a card that I keep putting into Mega decks because it's a way to find Ultra Ball, which means we can find Hoopa, which means we get the ideal setup. So it's just that 5th Ultra Ball when you need it. It's a Spirit Link when you need it. It's some of these 1-ofs like Escape Rope in important and clutch situations. It's also a 5th like search out to rough seas, because against Trevenant you will win the game if you find your rough seas pretty much, and it's just a case of finding it. Skyla can do that for you. Very, very good card. We are playing Xerosic. This is also cropping up in all sorts of different decks. Really helpful against things with special energy. We know Toad Tina's done well at US Nationals. Maybe we'll see that at Worlds. Even with Ranger, I still think the deck has some validity to it. I've not done much testing with Toad Tina, admittedly, with Ranger in format, but I feel like it's still an option. I think it is obviously weaker though. But Xerosic is going to be really helpful. Again, like I was saying earlier, we're in 2 hit KO walls against EX Pokemon, and if they have stuff like Fighting Fury Belt, if they're 180 HP Pokemon, it can ruin the math sometimes, especially if they add in heals with the likes of Rough Seas that we're playing as well. Obviously, the Aquabox deck also plays Rough Seas, so need to sometimes incorporate Xerosic so we can actually handle things like Seismitoad EX in 2 hits if they were having tools on them. We are playing the 4 Rough Seas. This is mainly just for the Trevenant matchup. I could see going down to 3 depending on metagame. Maybe make a space for something else. There's sort of a couple of texts which I'll get onto in a moment, but yeah, I think 4 Rough Seas is still a pretty good shout. It's just such a powerful stadium. It's made a whole bunch of different decks very valid in the format right now, so it's a huge testament to the card. And then we're just playing 3 Spirit Link. Get into your Mega quite consistently. I'd like to have a 4th. I decided to make the cut for Skyla because Skyla's more versatile and it can be that 4th out if you really need it to be. So I'm pretty happy with 3 if we're playing Skyla right now. And again, it's one of these things, making space for the Elixir is just one of these compromises that we do have to make. If you're in a field without Trevenant, maybe go down 1 Rough Seas and go up to 4, because I still like having 4 Spirit Link, even though we're just having the 3-3 line, because it allows us to do sort of like AZ plays to try and chain Megas a little bit more comfortably, and it makes stuff like Professor Sycamore a lot less painful. So the energy count is a lot more basic than the Canadian list. It's just 4 Grass and 8 Lightning. I think 4 Grass is correct to make Wood Blast actually a relevant attack, so that we can get all of these energy to be Grass quite comfortably. So we can hit 110, and that goes to 220 against the likes of Seismitoad EX, which is, you know, one of the main reasons why he's in the deck. So it's pretty important to actually hit the numbers if you're playing this card in the first place. I don't really see that just having like 2 Grass energy is really worth it, in my opinion. So that's the reason for the energy split. So a couple of cards that you could be playing. A big omission from the deck is Headringer. Headringer is a card that has slipped into regular Manectric decks. Again, it's one of these issues of space. It could be that 4th Rough Seas that ends up being the cut for 1 Headringer. It's just going to help you out. Again, in EX matchups against stuff like Giratina, you pretty much shut it down after they've attached to it. So that's pretty handy. It's good against all sorts of different cards. Any other Mega decks, you can just try and deny them straight away, put them back turns. That's pretty handy for you. And there was the other card that I was thinking of as a nice like 1 or 2 of is just Max Potion. If we do have the likes of Ranger, we can get around item lock a little bit easier. If we can do that, then Max Potion's worth playing. We already have a nice enough Trevenant matchup to where maybe 1 Max Potion can be snuck into the deck if you find a slot, so that when you're up against these decks that aren't locking you with items, you do have the nice play to really swing the matchup in your favor. Again, it's one of these situations where you're in the 2-hit KO war, then straight away you Max Potion, free retreat out, use your other Mega Manectric to reattach those energy, and you've set them back a turn, and straight away you're way ahead in the game. So it's one of these big swing cards that we've basically, I remember when Mega Manectric first came around, I was playing 2 Max Potion in the lists because nothing could 1-hit KO. I think at the time it was just Virizion Genesect, and you could play Spiritomb for that. So just having the Max Potion was just such a dirty tactic that you could put people back a turn. It was like if you're playing Sceptile when you're doing the hit and heal. It's just such a powerful thing to do. So just even 1 Max Potion, I can see it swinging a lot of games in the current format. So that is the deck, and we'll be hopping into a few games now. It's one of these ones where for Worlds, I don't think you can write it off, even though Jolteon's getting a lot weaker thanks to Ranger. And we saw Night March so dominant, and, you know, unless we get Karen, Night March looks even more dominant and well placed for Worlds. it feels like a really ballsy pick to go with Mega Manectric. But who knows, if we do get Karen, Mega Man looks pretty strong. It looks pretty good against the Dark decks. Looks really good against Trevenant. These are some of the additional front runners. I'll talk more in detail about these sorts of decks and the changes that we get from Steam Siege and how it all affects everything in another video, but these are just my initial thoughts. I think it's still something to keep an eye on, this deck, even though Night March is just so strong right now. So, we have found ourselves a game, and we mulligan, thankfully, because it's a pretty awkward hand. Although Skyla makes things all better, as long as we had Hoopa, we would have been fine. Revealing the double Lysandre. Second mulligan, revealing again the double Lysandre. And here we go. So we start with Mew, which is pretty much the ideal starter, as long as he's not playing Latios. EX. Well, an unknown's in the active, so hopefully we can survive. Looks like we're up against a Vespivile variant, most likely, which is pretty awkward. As long as we can get into our EX Pokemon, it's annoying for them to hit us, but really it's down to how good their first turn is. Shauna. Maybe it's not Vespiquen Vileplume. You don't often see Shauna. Okay. It could just be like an aggro Vespiquen without Vileplume. Not many players make space for Shauna in their list. They'd probably play like an N or a Judge if they are going to play one of those shuffle draw supporters instead of a straight up discard draw like Sycamore. Gets rid of a Lysandre, attaches double colourless, does play down a Shaymin EX. And we're going to see Battle Compressor. Maybe this will give us some more info. I am leaning back towards a Vespiquen Vileplume deck, even though Shauna does throw me off a little bit. There we go. So we'll see how crazy his turn can be. He's already got the early Vespiquen and an attachment of double colourless. Has to get rid of a DC in the process, which is good for us, especially because Bunnelby has already gone. Could be an indicator that he does play basic energy though. We know that Jolteon has been sneaking into a few of these lists. So we'll see here. We are going to see a Revitalizer, which is a really nice tech for getting that early Oddish Gloom down before he does go for another setup, it looks like, for 5 cards. So a really nice early setup. Going to be looking for Floatstone, you'd imagine. Still not used any supporter, so looks pretty good here. Pretty ideal start. Do see Trainer's Mail for Professor Sycamore. There's a combi, so he's made no space for Unknown or other Shaymins, which is interesting. Going to see a second Battle Compressor. So far, not much damage in the discard pile. Only 2 Pokemon, but that's all changed. Now it's 5. And there is a Sycamore, up to 7 now. There's another Vespiquen. One good thing about this Mew is people don't normally associate it with Manectric. He may well be associating my deck as Night March right now, so he might not go for like really high damage. We'll see. Naturally, as long as he draws naturally into his compressor, he'll still get rid of junk, and normally the junk is Pokemon. Like sort of like extra pieces of the Gloom, Oddish and such. He can even get rid of Unknown at this point because he's filled up his bench. But hopefully we stay out of range with the EX Pokemon, otherwise this could be a short game. Oh, 2 Bunnelby, and he chose to get rid of both. Wow. There's an Acrobike, down to 13 cards in deck. Oh no, 12, sorry. There's an Ultra Ball. So he's looks like he's found himself a Vileplume if he wishes. He actually floatstones the unknown. So it's a nice retreat. He gets an extra card from it as well. Looking for that floatstone, you'd imagine. Just an evolution, so there is a possibility that we can go for Lysandre plays, but we haven't seen an AZ as of yet. Oh, such a nice hand if we weren't item locked. We have to N and pray, unfortunately. Well. GG. That went well, boys. That's an advert for Vespival if anyone wants to play that deck for Worlds. Because we just got shreked. Well, we'll load up another game then, I guess. Really showed off our deck. I guess that's one reason to not play Mew. Everything else would have tanked that damage. Maybe not Shaymin. I wasn't 100% certain on his discard pile, but I think pretty much every other Pokemon in our deck could have tanked that. Let's try another game. Okie dokie. We will lead Jolteon EX because it has free retreat. And really, other than Vespiquen Vileplume, I guess, another one? Really, we only fear Night March. But I guess we also fear this deck. You can even combine like Lysandre with Dark Forest. That's hilarious. So we'll see how good this setup goes. Another one of these games where we just sort of sit back, cross our fingers because our hand isn't great. Like it would be fine, but Vespival just puts on so much pressure. Looks like it's doing a lot of counts, always a good thing for that deck specifically before you decide your target. Does eventually go for the combi. Goes straight into the Vespiquen thanks to the forest that he's found early. There's an unknown. Trainer's Mail, probably should have held the unknown at that point because he could draw into Ultra Ball now off the mail. There's a Shaymin EX regardless. Still plenty of plays. It's never really surprising to see turns like this against Vespiquen Vileplume. There's potential for him to get a better card though. Could even have not gone for Professor Sycamore if he was feeling more ballsy with the Shaymin EX, but that is a risk. We do see the farewell letter. There's a lightning energy, so it looks like it will be a Jolteon build. And we do see a Professor Sycamore. There's the Floatstone, straight onto Gloom. Oddish is debatably the best starter for this deck. That and Combi are easily the best starters. Actually, Jolteon's also a great starter. It's got a lot of good starters now, if you played the Jolteon build. Good to know. So we do have a way around Jolteon, of course, because we do have Mega Manectric, but under item lock it's always more difficult to get it out. And really what I alluded to earlier, that the Vespiquen is not great at dealing with big EX Pokemon just because the HP is too high. It just shows why Jolteon is a nice partner for this deck, because guess what, most EXs are just, you know, basic Pokemon. And even if they are Mega EXs, they under item lock normally have to waste a turn anyway, so you get 2 free Flash Rays a lot of the time, so you can do a nice trade. In an ideal world, of course. So, our opponent is deciding on their discards. Probably some Oddish and Gloom. But it looks like if you were here to learn about this deck, we've not done much so far. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Do you see a Trainer's Mail? No target, it looks like. And a Shaymin EX for another big 5 cards. Has played the supporter though, so I feel like the turn should be coming fairly close to a close. Maybe just a Bull Search for Vileplume unless it's already in hand. Who knows, there could be still like 2 more Shaymins coming down. It's a very real possibility. More damage, uh-oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 12, 13, 14. Ugh. Scary times already. Have to excuse the yawning, guys. Wow. I've been pretty unwell lately. But it has been good for me preparing a few of these videos, because trying to script them now so that I don't ramble like I am right now. So I've just been mashing away at the keyboard for the last couple of days. Obviously I enjoyed the US National stream. I'm sure everyone else did. If you haven't checked out the stream, I'm sure it's still archived on Twitch, so definitely go ahead and do that. So I think this is easily our best play here, because he didn't retreat. We will Professor Sycamore as well. Try and trap this Gloom, sorry. What items can I actually play here? I can't lower my hand size, so Shaymin's pretty redundant. Just grab all 3 out of the deck, I think. Because I can discard some later. You can grab AZ out as well. I don't think that's bad. No Spirit Link is a bit of a shame. But we can buy ourselves a turn here. Maybe. Force them to dig for their AZ if they play one. Annoying that they missed Vileplume and we couldn't punish it. Let's see what more playing they can do. There's a Professor Sycamore, so no AZ. More energy in the discard as well. Pretty good for us. Two, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 140 damage so far. It does evolve up into Vileplume. And passes. Now we could Hex to compress something and get a better VS Seeker. Get like a Lysandre. I could easily go for a deck out option. Let's go for it. Do I need to this turn? Not really. Okay, we can hold this. We can hold it. Just wait for them to play AZ before we reveal any Lysandre shenanigans. Only weak to really like red card. But even then we have turns to like carry on Dark Foresting. So Trevenant putting in work. Pretty good. Haven't seen any like tech supporters yet. And if this is the build that plays Jolteon and basic energy, he may have had to skimp out on some of these tech supporters. We will see though, of course. Nice. Trevenant just won us a game. Sweet. Let's have one more game. Although I do love playing against Vespiquen and Vileplume, don't get me wrong. I want to see some variety. And again, we'll cross our fingers that it's not Night March. Vespiquen seems like a pretty strong pick for Worlds though. If Night March is everywhere, like, people will be scared to play EX decks, so getting a damage cap just right is really easy for Vespiquen and Vileplume. It's kind of like the metagame that we expected at UK Nationals, and guess what won that? Just thinking aloud. Giving you the play for Worlds just casually in a video. Okie dokie. We're up against Typhlosion. Okay. Never come up against Typhlosion. This will be a learning experience for me. I think I'm going to toss out a Rough Seas and just attach an N. No real need to Shaymin just yet. We're not under much pressure in the early game against this. Ultra Ball Hoopa. Yep, seems pretty fine to me. Just check out some stuff. We've got all of our elixirs. 2 Spirit Link. We have Skyla for Link anyway next turn, so we seem pretty safe. We'll grab the Mega Man preemptively. Obviously don't need Trevenant. Could grab Shaymin EX. So I think next turn it's attach Skyla Spirit Link, drop down Shaymin EX after Mega Ring. Seems good. Obviously it can get ruined by N and Judge and red card, I guess, but we'll wait. Bear in mind these sorts of plays you have to consider a lot more in Steam Siege because Captivating Pokepuff is a card. We don't yet know how important it will be and in how many decks will play it, but these sorts of things are extra considerations. I'm already, as you can tell, thinking about the Worlds format. That was a pretty slow turn. Okay, so we will initiate plan A, which was get the Spirit Link, Mega up, and we'll draw some cards. Looking really for a compressor, just for more energy excel. Nothing of the sort, just lots of supporters. So we'll just take the prize, slap the 1 energy onto the Manectric. No debate here because we already hold AZ anyway. So if we're going to be stalled in any other situation, we can just AZ up. So they Scarlet for Candy, right? So you assume that this is going to be a Typhlosion this turn. I believe it was Scarlet for Candy. Yeah, there we go. 150 HP, that's a big boy. Massive Eruption, 80, discard the top 5, 80 times the number of discarded. We just got wrecked. Wow. That was pretty sweet. Absolutely wrecked. I'm scared that we're going to lose this game. Don't even know the best play here. It has to be N. Attach VSC can. Hope to hit either Spirit Link Mega or try and hit some elixirs. Not worth going for like a rope or anything because we have to deal with the threat. Didn't hit Link, but we do hit an elixir. Do we have to Ultra Ball? I think I do. Yeah, we definitely do. Can't really play Elixir now because it's not really a meaningful target. But it's one extra card that we can dig for Spirit Link, so okay. Actually, I think I wasted the grass energy on something. Go ahead, Jolteon, take it. Let's keep digging for Spirit Link. Looks like it's Assault Laser for 60. And hope that they don't have a lot more energy. How disgusting was that though? Pray for Joe. Woo! Survival. We're not dead. So we're just going to have to manually grab the Spirit Link again. We'll continue to manually attach Jolteon, I think. And we'll Turbo Bolt to Manectric. Still in this awkward, uncertain position against Typhlosion. Oops, gotta take a prize. Basically, if she can carry on getting candy and announcing attacks. And it looks like she can, which is worrying. Just needs 2 fire energy on the top of her 5-card deck. Yep. Holy Moses. This is real life. In fairness, it does show a criticism of the Mega Manectric deck, that it lacks a bit of one-hit KO potential. What do I even do here? Wow, I think that's our worst card. I think Retreat Mega is actually our best play. Because it means 3 have to be at the top 5. It's pretty depressing times for us. No, that's wrong. It has to be the attack. It's still 3 for him, or her, unless she has like Muscle Band. But this way we can 2-hit KO if we're alive. Oh boy. There it is. We just got wrecked. Jeez. Typhlosion for Worlds. Well, I wanted to get some real games, but those didn't feel like real games. So sorry about that. It looks like it has to be some of your own testing with Mega Manectric Trevenant. I hope at least the videos were entertaining. The battles, I should say. And do leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Let me know what you guys think about Mega Manectric Trevenant. Does it need the Giratina to be strong? Does it still survive post-rotation? Is it good play for Worlds? All of your discussion down below. I will try and get back to you. Thanks very much for watching, guys. It's been Joe from OmniPoke, and I'll see you next time.